Fesi Sitake and the Cougars hope to keep their dream season alive as they head north to the Hill for a showdown against the Utes. Your home for the best coverage of the Holy War is right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. This is JJ and Alex, presented by G2 Gene Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Welcome back, everybody. It is JJ and Alex, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Want to remind you what's going on this week, of course. It's Rivalry Week here on the station. We want to encourage you to rival right. Am I saying this right?
You're doing great.
Rivalry right? Don't rivalry wrong, rivalry right.
Can we start a website called Rivalry Wrong?
You cannot. No, you cannot. Jeremy's like, I'm dumping this.
No, that idea is so poo-poo.
No, that idea is poo-poo. I'm telling you. We got to keep this rivalry on the up and up, brother. I think it is. Look, as soon as Bronco was out of the equation and Kalani and Kyle became, I told you this, on the field in 2018.
Everybody will always follow the direction of the head coach.
Yes. And it was so heated for so many years. And then to see after the game, the two coaches, the coaching staffs coming together, high-fiving and saying, what are you doing for Thanksgiving? That changed everything. And by the way, that makes it a better rivalry, I think. The guys know each other so much, they want to beat the heck out of each other even more.
Yeah.
I think that's a total truism right there. Joining us on the program to give us more truisms about this rivalry, he is David Nixon, former BYU defender, and, of course, best hair on BYU TV across the board. David, you've been voted in, so congratulations.
Hey, every year it just keeps fading and fading, so I'll take it now, knowing that in 5 years it all might be gone. I don't take it for granted.
Good.
You never take that for granted. There's so much to dig into here, David, and before we get into the rivalry stuff, let's just talk about this BYU season, because I haven't had a chance to talk to you about this season, and you've been a fan and you've been covering the team, so you have both perspectives. The last few years, it's been up and down in independence, and now you have this situation where you're in the Big 12, but last year didn't go well, and now all of a sudden, out of nowhere, is this dream season. What is it like for you both as someone who's covering it and somebody who played for this team to watch this team and this program do what they're doing this year?
I mean, obviously you couldn't ask for more, right? I mean, they're doing exactly what every fan would hope they could do, which is go out there and play complimentary football. Every phase of the game has gotten better throughout the season. And they're taking care of business. And a lot of times decisively, too, right? I mean, yes, Goonies has some nail-biters. The Oklahoma State game, clearly. But to go do what they did to Kansas State, to go down to UCF where they're dogs against UCF and put it on them as well, go up 17-0, I mean, they're playing dominating football. And I think that's the part that's fun and exciting is, yeah, they've had some nail-biters, which makes it fun. But they've also gone out there and taken care of business when they've been underdogs. And this team – I don't know. I talk a lot about it, but I think look back at last year, and that 5-game losing streak the BYU had to end the season has paid massive dividends. I think that what it did to that team last year was it humbled them and made them realize you can't take games for granted, even when you're ahead like you were at Oklahoma State in the season at halftime, I think up to 18 points. It just makes you realize that every minute counts, every game counts, and these guys go out there and play as if it's the last game of the year. I remember hearing one of the receivers, I think it was Darius Laster, one of the receivers we interviewed in our post-game show, he mentioned that Fesi Sitake tells them, or maybe it was A-Rod, tells them that every game is your Super Bowl. And that's how it is with football, right? I mean, football, you have 12 games, guaranteed 12 games, that's it. So you train all season, all off season, you have 12 chances to walk out there and perform. It's not like basketball or baseball where you have 30, 40 games. You only have 12 opportunities. And so I think this team goes out there and they don't take it for granted. They go out there and perform well, and it's been fun to watch them string it all together.
When you see kind of how this rivalry's taken shape, and now it's kind of the point where it's an in-conference matchup, and you obviously got to play against Utah as a member of the Mountain West. Like, what does just the conference mate aspect of this game add to it?
I mean, it's everything. I mean, you guys were mentioning how the rivalry has cooled off ever since Bronco left. I do wonder now that they are conference foes, does it pick back up a little bit? Does it add a little bit more spark to it? I would probably say yes. I mean, I look back and when we played Utah at the end of the season every year at that last game, it was usually to decide the Mountain West Conference championship. And of course, this year it looks like that probably won't be the case in this game, not only because Utah's struggling, but also, they position the game with 4 games left. I would love to see them put it the last game of the year. I think that was kind of just a scheduling misstep by them. But, it's a huge game. And beyond just the emotions that go into it, now you start talking about conference implications, and it takes on kind of a new life of its own. So I'm interested to see how it plays out. Will it have the same vitriol and kind of hate that it had back in the day? Probably not, just given Kalani and Kyle's relationship and even Morgan's relationship, assuming that he takes it over in the future, his relationship with Kalani. But I do think it gets stepped up a little bit starting this year now that it means something. I mean, back in Independence and the Pac-12, it didn't mean much. It's kind of moved on. Yeah, you wanted to win it, but it didn't go against the win-loss or decide a conference championship per se. So we'll see how it plays out here in the future.
Yeah, David, I think that it's been a while since a BYU-Utah game has had so much at stake. And for BYU, this is everything. We know what's at stake with a college football playoff with a Big 12 championship on the line. Utah's desperate and hungry for a win. How do you think that dynamic plays out on Saturday with BYU having so much pressure on them to keep what's going, and then Utah feeling the pressure of trying to get a win and trying to get back to doing what they're used to doing, which is winning football games?
100%. I think that's why this game is so compelling, right? I mean, you look at BYU. Well, first of all, you look at the beginning of the season, and we all kind of circled this game saying, Utah is going to have everything to lose in this game because most likely they'd also be headed towards the college football playoff, and BYU be the underdogs. And, of course, the roles have been flipped or reversed. And so, now BYU's kind of got their target on their back. You've got Utah who's trying to dig themselves out of a 4-game losing streak. There's no better way to do that than to get your rivalry and to ruin their season per se, right? I mean, if I'm Utah, I'm looking at my chops. And, of course, if you're BYU, there is some pressure on you. But at the same time, I think this team, the way they performed under pressure this season tells you a lot about them. And I remember going and looking at this squad before the season began, and Vegas had the win totals 4.5 games, right? I remember going on record and saying, listen, I could see a path to 8 wins for this team. They'd have to perform well and play well, but I think they could get to 8 wins. And for me, it was because of the returning production. I mean, you look at this BYU team last year, and there were a ton of guys who got injured in the first, second, third game of the year that were starters, major contributors. And so those guys' seasons were over, or they had to rehab for the majority of the season. So all of a sudden, you had all these backups that now got significant playing time that came in, and they played the rest of the season. And you returned both those first and second stringers this year. And so now you've got the depth that we always talk about you need in the Big 12, and that's come along really well. And then, of course, those starters have come out and played tremendously. I mean, defensively, you look at that defensive line, the way they're playing with between Mangelston, Nelson, and Batty, and then the linebackers, which I'd argue maybe the best linebacking core that they've had there in a decade. BYU's had some good one-offs with of course, Fred Warner and Cal Van Noy and others. But as far as 3 starting backers, these guys are pretty amazing. And then you look at the secondary, one of the best pass efficiency defenses in the country. So if I'm Utah offensively that's struggling right now, there's not a lot of holes to pick in on this BYU defense right now. They're playing at a really high level.
So when you hear the Jake Retzlaff interviews that we've heard, and obviously being able to talk with these guys, the big theme all year long has been, oh, nobody else believed in us, but we did. This whole locker room knew we had something special in January. And there's a little part of me that goes, yeah, but there's also like a lot of teams across the country say, we knew we had it. We, in this locker room, we believed in ourselves. That happens for a lot of teams, but obviously not a lot of teams end up going 8-0 after that. How much of that has been learned along the way versus actually kind of being like, oh, no, we knew we were good at the beginning of the year?
I think all of it's been learned along the way. You got to give credit to Kalani and his coaching staff, and for them, like I said, coming off a 5-game losing streak, you're staring down the barrel last year of a 5-2 record. All you got to do is win 1 game to get the ball eligibility, and you don't. And for the fact to turn it around and go 8-0, guys, that's remarkable. I mean, because that's a pretty tough thing to rebound from those 5 losing games in a row at the end of the season. To all of a sudden go in the offseason and be able to rally the troops and have this type of turnaround. I mean, and so I understand why Vegas put the win total at what it was, right? Because it's so hard to do. But credit to Kalani and the rest of the coaching staff, and obviously credit to the players. These guys have bought in. And what's pretty impressive about this roster, frankly, is they didn't go out to the transfer portal. They didn't say, hey, we got to overhaul this whole roster. You look at the starters, all these guys were on the roster last year. Maybe there's 1 or 2 guys, Mark Collins on defense and a few others that have come in. But the majority of the starters were guys that were on the roster last year. They didn't say we have to go back and reinvent the wheel they believed in their team, and I think the kids bought in. I think they realized, hey, I don't have 3 transfers coming in to take my spot. The coaches believe in me, and they know I can do my job, and we can win games. And so I think that the culture that Kalani built there, without hitting the panic button, has, like I said, it's paid dividends. And it's fun to see this team really rally around each other. And I think that's been the biggest thing. You talk about unity. That's exactly what this team has right now. I think they believe in each other. They believe in the coaching staff. I think there's respect mutually both ways, and it shows on the field. These guys are playing fantastic football.
BYU ranked 9th in the first college football playoff rankings. What was your reaction?
I mean, it's about where I thought they'd be, considering that's where they were ranked the prior week. So it wasn't much of a surprise as far as the ranking goes. But listen, I'd be lying if I said that I'd look at every time I look at that little, the mock playoff bracket, and BYU is the 4th seed getting a first round bye. Like how amazing is that, right? I mean, it's unbelievable that they're in this position. And I've told other fellow fans, I go, listen, it's really, really difficult to run the table in college football, pro, anywhere. It's really difficult to go undefeated. BYU most likely will lose a game this year. The odds are stacked against them. They're going to lose a game probably somewhere along the way. So just enjoy this ride. It might be this week. It might be against Arizona State, right? It might be against Kansas at home. Who knows? But just enjoy the ride, because most likely it'll come to an end. But you have to enjoy this 8-0 season, this start they've had thus far, because it's remarkable, and it's been a blast. I mean, it's fun seeing your team top 10 in the country. It's taken so long to get back to this spot, but just enjoy it.
There's something that's been really interesting to watch too, and there is a culture situation at BYU that, I feel like has been just as big of a deal inside that locker room as just winning. But before we let you go here, David, when you see this team and you see them going up to Salt Lake, how is it that they can get the losing up at Rice-Eccles off of their back?
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, I think it's been noted that a lot of these kids haven't played in this rivalry game. In fact, I don't think any of the kids have played up at Utah before. And so for them, I don't know if there's anything daunting about the records that have been held up there. But I think it just comes down to, just do what they've done throughout the rest of the season, which is, once again, when the cards have been stacked against them, when Vegas is counting them out and lines have been shifted all over the place, that they just go out there and perform and then do their jobs and kind of play for each other. I think this team, for me, the first 15 minutes of this game will be very telling. I think if BYU can jump out to a start like they did against UCF and just keep their foot on the gas pedal, then I think Utah, given the 4-game skid and given where they're at, they might tend to just probably, quit or kind of slump off a little bit. But I think if you give Utah any type of life in this game, given the fact that it's the rivalry game, this game can go either way. I mean, prior to the 2 prior meetings, there were 6 straight games of 1 score or less that the game was decided upon. So we know that these games are always tight. And for BYU, I think it's going to come down to that first 15 minutes, that first quarter. What type of start can they get off to? Are they taking care of the ball? Are they converting on third down? Are they putting up points? Are they one of the best teams in the country in red zone offense? Can they convert in the red zone? That's going to be the telltale sign.
David Nixon, former BYU linebacker, currently BYU TV analyst. David, thanks for hanging out with us, man. We appreciate it. We're going to jump on with Fesi Sitake here in just a sec. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Thanks, David.
I love it. Always fun. Thanks, guys.
All right, there you go. David Nixon. And joining us on the program right now, fresh off the practice field, passing game coordinator, wide receivers coach, he is Fesi Sitake. How's it going, Coach?
It's going well, man. How are you guys?
Oh,
it's rivalry week.
It's been a chill week for us. We haven't had anything to talk about. It's great.
Yeah.
I bet. It seems like you need something to talk about, man. I don't know if I can help you.
Good thing we got a hockey team now, Fesi.
Oh, yeah. Thank heavens.
Yeah, exactly.
How's practice been this week? One of the things we're able to talk about every week with a couple of these players is be like, one thing that they keep stressing is, man, we had a great week of practice, and that translated into the game. So what's this look like this week on the field for the Cougs at practice?
The energy's been great, man. Like, I think these guys are, we don't have to – sometimes as coaches you have to kind of like Jedi mind trick players in certain situations, but these guys get it. It's out there. They know it's a rivalry week. But what I love is that the way they're practicing, the way they're, honing in on the attention to details, all that stuff is reflective of just how they've kind of carried themselves every week. And so they view this as obviously a big game. It's a rivalry, but they kind of haven't changed their process. So the energy's great. Guys are flying around. It was cold outside today, but they understand it's going to be cold. A lot of our games moving forward, especially these night ones, and they fought through that and didn't let it get to them at all. So it's been fun to watch them as it gets closer to the game. Just that energy start to build up.
The players have done a great job of blocking everything out and just focusing on what they need to, and that's why you guys are 8-0 and you're having this success. But this week, you A, have the rivalry game, which can become a distraction, and B, the college football playoff rankings are out, and you guys you don't live under a rock. This is a big deal, and this is your goal. So how do you balance all that stuff and all these things going on this week and just have them focus on what they've been doing for the first 8 weeks?
You know, what really helps is when you have a goal, something that's kind of right there in mind, something you're striving for. It's a lot easier, I think, to block all that out. And so they've done a great job at just kind of realizing, you know, all the emotions and leading up to this game, but saying, you know what, truly, this is another game. Some people, I feel, you know, that's controversial. Like some people are like, oh, it's not another game. It's in-state's rivalry, but it is. And we understand all that stuff that comes with it. And so these guys, they get it. I think as coaches, we haven't had to work too hard at framing this, like try to balance out the emotions. Like they're like, you guys, this is another. Every week has been a Super Bowl for us, and this one is Super Bowl 9, and it happens to be a team that's 45 minutes up the road instead of a 4-hour flight or whatever it might be, and it's one that has a deep, you know, history and tradition, but it really is just another game, number 9, and I think the way they've been carrying themselves, it's a confidence. It's something that you can't fake, and it's been fun to watch them.
Do the players and do you guys as a coaching staff, like, I mean, does the pressure build on an 8-0 start, and like, does it just get more crazy from one week to the next in terms of that pressure on your shoulders? I know the expectations weren't anywhere near where this 8-0's delivered you, but I would assume that every week there's that feeling of people wanting to run you down even more, and then whether or not you guys can keep and maintain that, not just the energy during practice, but the performance during the games. It seems to just keep getting better every week.
Yeah, you know, I think it's a good kind of pressure, you know, as opposed to ones we've had in the past where you're fighting for a season, you're fighting for a bowl game, you're fighting for your job. You know, that's a reality of this profession, both from, you know, a coach's and a player's standpoint. And we've, you know, a lot of us have had those. And so now a lot of coaches, we were talking the other day, there's not a lot of coaches who have been part of, you know, this far in the season and have been undefeated. And so, but it's a really good pressure. Like what you're saying, there's a target on our back. We're the hunted, you know, as opposed to the hunters type. And I think that all that does is just increase your sense of urgency, your attention to detail. It makes you step back and say, okay, what are we, you know, trying to accomplish here? What do we need to continue to fix? What process do we need to stay committed to? And so the guys they feel the right type of pressure in a good way. And like I said, I think a lot of that is just there's confidence that's building because of those pressure points that we have.
As a receivers coach, you spent a lot of time with Darius Lassiter, and he has become a star this year. We all know what he did at the end of the Oklahoma State game, but I was even more impressed by that 4th down he converted at UCF. What has he done to elevate his game this season and be able to make the kind of impact plays that he's made to help you guys get to 8-0?
Yeah, he's epitomized just you show how much you love this game just by the way you play, not just talking about it. He's taken a huge step in terms of leadership. Last year he was so caught up in just, I got to get acclimated, I got to get this playbook down so I can be an every down reliable guy. That was really hard for him to look outward, you know, and say, where can I go lift someone up and encourage guys. This year, man, he's one of the guys on the sideline that, you know, if we're struggling as an offense, he's being positive. He's going up and lifting the guys up. If the defense is struggling, he says, hey, we got you guys. Like, you know, when Oklahoma State scored, he literally just went to everyone and says, we got this. We're going to go score. And it's just to see him just kind of focus on everyone and take the attention off himself, but then at the same time to make some of the unbelievable plays he's made this year. It just kind of epitomizes who he is. He's a very just quiet, humble, selfless leader, but he loves this game and he's passionate about it. And I love when it comes out in form of, you know, being vocal like he's done a lot this year. So it's been a blessing to watch him, you know, grow and flourish as a player and as a man.
Fesi, last question here as we get you out of here and you can go hang out maybe with the other coaches or your family. Heaven forbid you hang out with your family on a game week like this.
They're probably sick of you. So
yeah, I need excuses to not go see them.
They're like, Dad's got too much pressure this week. As you kind of have seen also the other side of this. Jake Retzlaff has grown quite a bit from the receiver side of things, and watching, and obviously you guys playing a ton in that passing game around what Jake can do and what he's been able to accomplish. What's been the biggest change in him this year?
He's really he's just really trusted the system. He's playing within the system now, and I think part of the growth that he had to experience himself was some of the stuff he's been able to get away with as just being a feisty, competitive, type of player. He's not able to get away with here, or it doesn't send a great message. And it's a credit to him and just putting his head down and just kind of re-examining, like, what do I need to do to help this offense and this team? And he's done such a good job of that. People can see he's playing with this confidence, completely different than what he had last year. But he's earned that. He's earned it because he's playing within the system. He's trusting what his coaches are telling him. He's trusting the players around him. They, in return, have all the confidence in the world in him. So it's been really cool to see that start to take shape. And so I think that's just been the biggest thing is he's always been talented. He's always been competitive, but he's learned how to just kind of make the right decisions and trust the system and the coaches and the things he's being told.
Fesi Sitake, Coach, thanks for taking some extra time today. We appreciate it. Have a fun rest of the practices this week and get you guys ready, and we're looking forward to this game on Saturday.
Pleasure's mine. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks, Coach.
Coach Sitake. Fesi Sitake. Don't get it confused.
Do not.
I will say the hungry and humble thing, like that passing game and the wide receivers, they got no reason to be humble this year. They are performing phenomenally.
You know what, though? I give them credit. In this, what happened on Tuesday, it just gives them more ammo. They keep having to come up with things to motivate themselves because when you're 8-0, you got to find a reason. Because
but they don't see that stuff. They don't see what the national media is saying, JJ, remember?
That's why I asked Fesi about that. And they're doing a good job of keeping that out, but you also want to pick and choose what you want to keep in or bring in. And I think the 2.5 point underdog thing at UCF, they use that. There's no doubt about that.
Time. Yep.
What do you think they're going to use this week?
National media still doesn't
The
think we've done
College Football
enough.
Playoff Committee is not very impressed with what we've done. They don't believe we're very good.
We ain't done enough.
They don't think we're as good as our resume and our records show that they are. So guess what we got to go do?
Indy freaking Anna. We're not better than Indy freaking Anna.
We have a better resume than Miami. Are we really 4 spots worse? 5 spots lower? So there's things they can use to motivate this group that does come from the outside, and I think they're also doing a good job of that as well.
We named the dog Indiana. Somebody ever explain why Indiana Jones's dad had a Scottish accent? Nobody talked about it. Nobody
it never came up.
Talked about it. I know he taught across the world, but my goodness.
Maybe he's just one of those imposters that pick up the accent of wherever it's convenient to pick it up.
Indiana. Weirdest storyline ever that they hooked up with the same German Nazi archaeologist. Super weird, right?
Very.
But classic. But a classic. All right. She talks in her sleep. Join the zone for extended pregame coverage as BYU and Utah face off. We're going to be at
Suck it, Trebek.
We're going to be at Roland Hall, 720 Guardsman Way. Brought to you by Beehive Meals, proud meal partner for BYU and Utah Athletics. We'll come back. We've got more to go. We've got our NFL Blitz. Don't want to miss any of it. Stay here, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
In the NFL, JJ and Alex bring you the NFL Blitz on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, everybody, welcome back. JJ and Alex, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. You know what that music means. We got some NFL to talk about. Before we do, guess what else we have to talk about? Guess what else we got to bring up? First and 12, a podcast that Mitch Harper and I, and a radio show that Mitch Harper and I have been doing now for 2 years since BYU joined the Big 12, knowing that Utah was going to join the Big 12 this year. This is a podcast dedicated with heavy emphasis on Utah and BYU coverage, but with the whole view of the Big 12. It's called First and 12. It's every Sunday, 10 to noon on KSL News Radio and on the KSL Sports Zone, all at the same time. It's all brought to you by Macy's Groceries. Freshest fruits and vegetables from local farms and your local favorite brands. Macy's, happy shopping. Let me see here. So I was expecting that Micah Parsons might be back this week, but what are they doing? They're going to go another extra week of probably. They say he might be back. Listed as questionable for this week. You may have forgotten. If you're Micah Parsons, you're going, you know what? I'm going to take the rest of the year off. He's been gone since week 4, and ever since then, his Cowboys are, what are they overall, 3-5 now on the season?
Yeah, they suck.
And I don't think, and by the way, Dak Prescott, I don't know what they're going to be doing with him. Is he not going to be playing?
No, he's out for a while.
So he's going to be on the IR.
Not yet.
Enter Cooper Rush. Everybody's favorite backup. Defender's favorite backup.
Add him to your fantasy football roster right now.
Cooper Rush, DBs are licking their chops.
I do remember a couple years ago, they're like, maybe he's the guy. He won a couple games.
Oh, my gosh. Just like Jason Garrett when he was playing backup quarterback. He might, dude. I mean.
Cowboy fans love their backup.
Oh, I'm telling you. It's a great spot to be in. I told you when I was in 4th grade, Steve Pallure came to our elementary school, and I was selected to catch a ball from him in our class.
Did you drop it?
Well, he hit it way in front of the turf in front of me, just like he did in normal games.
Oh, no.
That's why he was the backup. Which also made me sad because he was a Washington Husky, man. But yeah, he ended up. So that was one of these years that like Danny White was. He was getting into the older Danny White era.
The pre-Troy Aikman quarterback days for the Cowboys.
This is a 1-in-15 year.
This is the no. I don't think it was the 1-in-15 year, but I think it was the year before, and I think he got a lot of playing time in that because 1-in-15 was Troy Aikman. Yeah. So it was the year before that.
Staubach, and Danny White had some good years.
Oh, yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you had a montage of
a poop show.
Forgettable Dallas Cowboys quarterbacks.
Including Steve Pallure. But that was like unforgettable day for me. A Dallas Cowboy came to our elementary school. Now, Valley Ranch was like 5 minutes from the Dallas Cowboy golf course that they built is in my hometown. Like they are right there now. But nevertheless, I did catch it. I caught it. I caught the pass from Steve Pallure. It was nice. Really good. Bengals running back Zack Moss. Bad news for the former Ute. Going to the IR with a neck injury. Likely going to be out of the season. That's always scary. Those types of injuries always
Say
scary.
neck, I'm like, uh-oh.
I know.
Let's hope it's not a big deal, and let's hope that Zack can get back healthy at some point in the future, but likely out for the season.
Well, what stinks is the Bengals, like he's not been a problem this year. The Bengals have been one of the most disappointing teams of the last 2 or 3 seasons. And that's now with like Joe Burrow kind of figuring a couple things out here and there. What did he throw for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns against the Ravens last week? It's like this too little too late feeling though, right? Like he's not figuring it out.
The rough start. It's tough to dig out of a 1-4 start.
Eli Manning and Marshawn Lynch have moved on to the next round. They are now finalists in the Pro Football Hall of Fame class of 2025. They're not there yet. Eli Manning, to me, we've talked about his numbers forever, but Marshawn Lynch, to me, never, even as a Seahawks fan, I didn't really think to myself, oh, yeah, this guy is definitely a Hall of Famer.
Really?
Because his numbers are phenomenal when you look at it, but he was always so hit and miss. And he wasn't a Seahawk for his entire career. But, I mean, Sean Alexander's also on the list of guys who are on the. Here are the finalists for running backs. You ready? Sean Alexander, also Seahawk. Tiki Barber. I'll take guys who are going to get in probably for no reason to the Pro Football Hall of Fame for 500, Alex. Eddie George, in, right?
Yeah.
Marshawn Lynch, probably. And Fred Taylor. Can you believe how old we are, dude?
Yeah.
That Fred Taylor is on the list. Ricky Waters, also on that list of running backs on the that are in the finals.
Marshawn Lynch being on the Hall of Fame ballot.
That makes
me feel really old.
Yeah.
Like I've got kids that wore his jersey. My kids.
I've never seen a more interesting runner in the league.
Well, he has one of the most iconic touchdown runs in NFL history.
But by the way,
the crowd reaction measured on the Richter scale.
If you ever go back and look at his highlight films, every one of his runs are some version of that. It was just a longer version of that he did like his entire career. Guys thought he had him down.
5-time Pro Bowler, 2-time All-NFL, won a Super Bowl, 29th all-time in rushing.
Actor, that's true. My favorite part was when we went on ESPN on one of those late night Pac-12 games and dropped like 4 F-bombs. Anyway, thank you so much, Marshawn. He's like, oh, sorry, we live? And they're like, oh yeah, we are.
He's a national treasure. By the way, 8th all-time in postseason rushing yards. That matters.
Not bad. Okay, we'll take the break here. We'll come back. We've got more to go. We've got tons to get through. Our best and worst is next. Stay with us, 97.5 EKSL Sports.
Wrapping up the hour with our picks for the best and worst moments on today's show. As JJ and Alex want to hear your best and worst of the day.
Oh boy, abrupt stop to the old music there. Sorry about that. Jeez. JJ and Alex, 97.5 EKSL Sports Zone. Alex Curie, Jeremiah Jensen, wrapping up this hour with a little bit of best and worst. It's all brought to you by the good folks at the Doug Smith family of dealerships. Kia, Subaru, Chevy, Jeep, Dodge, or Ram. Visit the Doug Smith dealerships in Linden and Spanish Fork. Great service starts with know-how, and nobody knows like Doug. Here, Doug. All right, you cast your vote for the best of the day, and frankly, we probably could have done a it's early, though. We can't talk too early about college basketball or I'll go nuts.
Yeah.
However,
I know it's the first week of November. It was game 1, but I can't help it. I love Jaeger Demon. Love him. BYU fans, you are so lucky. You got a one-and-done kid from Moscow, Russia, who's going to be a lottery pick next year. He's special, and he showed last night in the Marriott Center why he's special. In 31 minutes, he scores 18 points, dishes out 11 assists, gets 4 steals, so he's defending too. Also picks up 4 rebounds.
How big is he?
7. How big is he? What
6'11"?
are his measurements?
Yeah.
Not quite that big, but I mean, 6'8" maybe.
But NBA body, right? Like for that, like he's kind of a perfect.
I'm watching the highlights. It's like it looks like an NBA player playing against college kids.
So he's that impressive from the passing. We've heard it already, right?
I get it. He's 6'8", 190 pounds. Okay,
there you go.
So he's got a good NBA body. He plays point guard, but he's got that kind of size, and you know that's kind of the norm in the NBA now. As you see 6'8" guys that can do stuff like this that really excel. He's going to be a lottery pick, but he's going to play for BYU this year. And I know BYU's picked 9th in the Big 12. They're not ranked in the top 25 right now, but he is good enough. In fact, I think he is – everyone's going to talk about Cooper Flagg all year long. And I know there's some other good talent that's one and done around college basketball, but Jaeger Demon is going to be in the Player of the Year conversation.
Really?
He's that good.
So what are numbers going to look like for him? Is he going to be like it's like a 20 – it's like he's going to have –
he can average a double-double in points and assists in every game, and then he's going to have the steals. He's going to get some boards. He's going to dominate the game. If you watch him play the game – he plays it at such a high level for somebody at his age and his experience level. It's just awesome.
Is Kyle Collinsworth's triple-double record in jeopardy at all? Probably not, because that was quite unique.
No, that was something.
Yeah.
I don't know that Jaeger's going to get the rebounds.
Yeah.
Especially with what he's doing on the floor. So I don't know about that, but my goodness, Jaeger Demon is the best. I mean, Jimmer Fredette obviously had a number, but he got better over 4 years, and he had his wooden season as a senior. Jaeger Demon is going to have that kind of an impact as a freshman. He's not going to score 40-something points a game,
and he gone.
But exactly,
yeah.
But if you watch him play, you're like, wow, BYU has not had somebody that looks and plays like this.
Nope. No,
and he makes everybody around him better. Cannon Catchings, 17 points last night. Easy lobs.
We heard everybody.
Traore,
we heard everybody.
Keita.
Yeah, we heard everybody was. Everybody was falling over themselves to tell us how good of a passer he was for a big man.
Yeah,
and for just a guy who 6'9" type NBA body, but he's able to facilitate like he does. And they're like, what 18-year-old has this court vision?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's and you saw it last night.
All right.
It's not every night's going to be perfect. There's going to be ups and downs, but you saw last night his potential.
Another BYU basketball season where we have to watch this team overperform now. Although I guess it's not a overperformance now if they finish because they got into the top 25 in pretty quick order last year after they got on a good run at the beginning.
If it doesn't go perfectly and you finish 6th or 7th, you're still going to be like a 5 seed in the NCAA tournament.
Absolutely. And then the worst, we'll gloss over this as quickly as you can.
Yeah.
Utah Hockey Club, we knew what type of a battle this was going to be. I had hope when this thing was only 1-0 at the end of 2 periods, and I thought, all right, get one back and let's see where you're at. But the Utah Hockey Club has bad third periods. We're starting to find out that it falls off on from an energy standpoint. You get a little loose on the defense. It's not good to do that on the road and the best team in hockey. Ooh, by the way, the Jets are 12-1 now.
Yeah.
And so you knew it was going to be tough.
In their barn.
Yeah, and they said it was going to be. Look, what did Bill Armstrong say yesterday? He's like, look, this is going to be a massive test. What do we look like against the best team in the NHL by far? And you lost 3-0.
You saw the gap.
There you go. Their goaltending, phenomenal, by the way. All right. We'll take a break here. We'll come back. We've got more to go right around the corner. Don't miss any of it. Stay here, 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.